Our guest today has captured hearts of audiences with her unapologetic quirkiness and relatable charm. It gives me great joy to have on the show today Mithila Palkar. Mithila, welcome to this episode of Unscripted with Akarsh Khurana. It's so good that I can actually get to hang with you somewhere, and only when there's such a kind of event
to
that
set
we
it up.
event that we create out of it and make sure that there are cameras and mics, and then I know you've been kind of questioning why you've been called on this.
Yes.
It's not about theatre. It's Unscripted with Akarsh Khurana by Aadyam Theatre. That's where the theatre word is. We can talk about anything.
Oh, nice.
Like we can talk about your
Life.
diet or vegetables or the songs you sing.
Yes.
We can do anything.
Okay, great. Now I'm okay.
Yeah, so it's a really free flowing kind of conversation. And which is why, because you've said so much, I'm going to start with a question which is actually not about theatre at all. What I actually want to talk to you about, because it's something that I haven't actually got that chance to speak with any of the other guests about that. But and with Girl in the City, we will come to. But you're a girl in this city. You're very much a Bombay girl, right? I believe you started, but like in Vasai or something, and then moved to Dadar. Or is that what happened?
Technically, I was born and brought up in Dadar.
In Dadar. So you're a Dadar girl.
I'm an out and out Dadar girl. Yes, I lived with my parents in Vasai for 9 years, but I'm
And now from
born
Dadar, you have
here.
moved to another suburb, which is
Mahim.
close enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't leave
But
that
the
area.
fact is that you're a Bombay girl. I want to actually talk to you about the city. I want to talk to you about your earliest memories of it, and a little bit of like how it's changed over the years, and particularly the area that you're staying in, and particularly Dadar, for example, which is pretty much the heart of Bombay. And Bombay has this horrible habit of expanding in a straight line, which keeps going further towards different states. But talk to me about your Bombay as a child and your Bombay now.
My Bombay as a child has been, and more or less is still about my grandparents. Because I was born in their house, and that's all that I knew. Like that was my world, and it, in many senses, still is my world. Now there are just more people involved in
Right.
it.
And how does it feel to sort of leave the area and have your own place now, which overlinks a ceiling that was born after you? So, so how
It
do-
feels a little unsettling, but a trivia that I give people, which I will give you now, but I usually give people when they visit me, is that there is a hospital that is right behind, in a lane that's parallel to mine,
to where you're staying right
to where
now.
I
Right.
stay right now, is
Yeah.
where I was born.
Oh, so
So it's like
didn't
life
fall
has
far from the tree.
yeah, not very much.
Nice.
So, yeah.
No, as in I think, I think that might be something so unique of the area that you kind of grew up in, and particularly the Dadar Shivaji Park area, where
Yes.
there is still it's kind of holding on to a time
Yes.
that's kind of gone. Tell me, like you're the first person in the performing arts in your family,
Yes.
and like for generations, and
Yes.
from what I know, your sister is very academically oriented, and she's a scientist.
She's a scientist.
She's a
yes.
scientist, and there's no sign of something like this. So you were growing up in this cocooned world, as you said. So what was the first kind of realization that this is something that you wanted to explore, and not perhaps what the expectations would have been? Were there expectations
Yes.
of any sort?
Of course.
Of that what you would do?
From other people, yes,
Yeah,
of
so,
course.
like-
So I had a huge influence on my grandfather. So
And what did he want you to?
he would want me to do anything but performing arts, because there is no guarantee of anything.
Correct, obviously, the security of
And
it.
there is no security. And
Right.
any middle class Maharashtrian would be like, graduate, do a job, do like a 9 to 5, because there's money coming in for sure.
Correct.
Get married and your life is
But,
done.
and that's
Like,
where you grew up, in that
that's-
environment. So where did that little act of rebellion come?
Having said that, my grandfather was also a rebel. So because he's the one who pursued something that his father didn't want him to.
Right.
Dadar is also very culturally rich.
It is, yes. You would watch a lot of theatre growing up?
Not a lot, but we would go. I remember going with my mother. I remember my sister had taken me once for a children's play. So I have vivid memories of those. And
Predominantly Marathi theatre.
predominantly
Yes,
Marathi
right.
theatre. So I have very like vivid memories of Mukta Barve, Nirmiti Sawant on stage, and like I think eventually just before college also I had watched a play that had Chinmay Sumit and Sumit Raghavan on stage, and all of these Marathi plays is all Shivaji Mandir.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So I have essentially grown up in that space.
Right. So when you Thespo is next on my. So when you signed up for Thespo, you actually signed up hoping to be acting on stage.
No, when I signed up for Thespo, I was probably volunteering. If you ask Quasar this story, he will have a different story to tell you because he says that I rejected him. But
Right.
all these
Yes.
foster
complete that,
fathers of
yeah.
mine have their own stories, which includes him. So Quasar was doing a play called So Many Socks,
Right.
and he was auditioning for that.
Okay.
And this is when I was in college. It was my last year, and that's how I met them first, Quasar and Thoral. And I auditioned for the play. I remember the piece I did. I remember the dance piece because they wanted to see
Some
movement.
movement. Yes, the play had that. Yeah.
So I remember that, and then I sat in front of him and I said, "But I'm not going to be able to come for rehearsals for more than like."
Because
just
you were in
beyond
your
this time.
Final year, yeah.
So he said, "Okay." So this is his definition of I rejected him before he
I
could
mean, you
even
wasted
say
his time,
anything.
mainly, but yeah.
So Varun was the stage manager then, Varun
Varun
Bangira.
Bangira, okay.
And he then reached out and said, "Would you want to volunteer for
At Thespo.
Thespo?" And
Right.
and I wanted to do anything to be close to theatre at that point in time because I knew that I always remembered feeling how I felt on stage, and I said, "Okay, if this is my way into acting, I will take it. I will take anything right now."
So you volunteered on Thespo,
Hmm.
and then you were also festival director at some point.
Yeah, in 2012 I volunteered, and then 2013 for Thespo, the 15th edition of the festival, I was the
Festival director, but you're still not acting. You were now managing a
still
festival.
on.
So actually, there's one segment that I wanted you to talk about a little bit. I wanted you to talk a little bit about Thespo. Now, I mean, like I was born at Thespo. AK Various Productions was born at Thespo, but we are old people and not as relevant as you are. It's closer, to your generation now. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about Thespo, how your journey was in Thespo, what it meant to you, what it did for you, because you were not acting on stage at that point of time, and you were actually whatever you were kind of making it possible for other people to act on stage. That's one thing, and I also want you to talk a little bit about Quasar and Thoral because I don't think we talk about them enough. So, and I mean that genuinely. I mean, I think that, there's an enigmatic quality to both of them, and people know that they've been instrumental in everyone's journeys, mine included.
Yeah.
Quasar by default becomes a mentor.
Yes.
And
I don't think he knows otherwise.
And Thoral by default disciplines you after your parents.
That is true.
Yeah, but I want you to talk about Thespo and maybe lead into talking a little bit about Quasar and Thoral. And I mean, I'll keep interrupting,
Sure.
but yeah.
So Thespo happened to me the way I just described.
Yeah.
And I was willing to do anything to just be around any opportunity that would let me act.
Right.
Which Quasar knew because I auditioned for him. The way he put me on stage then was so Thespo never had, so until its 14th edition, if I'm not wrong, don't quote me here, but you might know this better, that they didn't have this thing of introducing the performances.
I don't think they did. They had festival directors.
Yeah.
But I don't think they had a role besides behind the.
Yeah. So he brought that in that year, and he was like, it will only make sense to streamline it and for people to know what they're there for.
What they're getting into.
And let's dedicate one person for it. And because he knew that I wanted
And that
to
was
be
the
on
year you were the volunteer.
That was the year I was a
Okay,
volunteer.
lovely.
And I've literally learned anything that I know about stage or how to be on stage or just how to be in life. I've learned all of that at Thespo, right from learning how to write formal emails
Right.
to everything. Like my hi had an exclamation mark, and then Vivek Rao went, "Why are you exclaiming?"
Nice.
Like
Okay.
it's as basic as that.
Your high still has an exclamation mark. So,
When I speak, yes.
Yeah.
But my
It's now
formal
multiple
emails have
highs.
changed.
It's hi. So yeah.
This is true.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that year I remember for Thespo 14, which is 2012, I had a script and
Presenting the
I was
plays.
presenting the plays, and the first day I was all over the place, and I could see Quasar's face like just crumble and fall because he would sit in the aisle and the steps, I mean. And then I went and I sat next to him and I panicked that my phone wasn't on silent. So I was like basically just a mess. So the next day, he met me in the green room because he said, I'm dedicating 10 minutes and we are going to sit and we are going to rehearse this. And that was my first like just
Rehearsal.
tryst with a rehearsal, that also with Quasar, so it was highly intimidating, but he made me say the lines and then I enjoyed presenting, like I
Nice.
enjoyed it to the point where all of these people eventually are now my mentors, and in fact Quasar and Thural still continue to be the two people that I keep going back to every time I'm stuck. And then people started getting added to it, you being one of them. For a brief period of time, there was also Anand Tiwari who kind of navigated me through things. So what Thespo essentially did for me was to enable me to meet
People who were doing what you wanted to do.
the right people at the right time. So
And you made quite an impression because you were festival director the next year.
yes,
That's wow. that's progress.
yeah. So
one
now by the
year,
time I
so,
got on
yeah.
board, you weren't there.
Right,
You
right.
weren't around at all. But when I say that it helped me meet people that, well, like you, I mean that everything that I've done so far has one Thespo connection. So somehow it kind of finds itself back, or I find myself connected to Thespo in some way or the other. Karan Malli, who is a casting director with
now,
Nane
yes.
Shikand, saw me at Thespo.
And he was casting Katti Batti.
He was casting, not Katti Batti.
Oh, that
Katti
was
Batti
Mukesh
Chhabra.
Chabra. Yes, of course. Yeah.
He was casting for Karwa.
Yeah.
But before that, I've auditioned with them for a few films.
Right.
So, Thespo, like he saw me at Thespo and knew that I wanted to act. Anmol Ahuja, Casting Bay,
Casting Bay. Yes.
Thespo, he's Thespo Delhi.
Yeah, no,
basically.
I think it kind of did spawn a lot, and I think that those connections still exist. I mean, Aadyam this year, one of the people who's always involved is Nadir. Nadir Khan is,
Yes.
he's co-artistic co-director of Aadyam
Yes.
this year as well, and Nadir was the festival director in my first Thespo. And that was through Argya Lahiri, who was a school friend. So it's quite a small
Yes, it's a
world
very
and
small
very
world.
incestuous kind of fraternity. But yeah, I think it's also spread its wings in a very interesting way because everyone's kind of
Yeah.
connected and I mean before we had a drama school,
Yeah.
Thespo was our drama school, so everybody
Essentially,
had kind
yes.
of gone through that and like you, I think a lot of people who didn't qualify would volunteer. So
Yeah.
you would kind of see and they're still doing lots of really good work. Talk to me a little bit about Quasar and Toral. You can be as emotional as you want, but yeah,
No,
you can.
well, I call them my foster parents. You know that, like they become my escape whenever like I want to find an escape or advice or anything essentially. Quasar has been, like I said, he doesn't know otherwise. He just knows how to be a mentor.
That's true.
So, one of my conversations with Quasar was in his kitchen, which for the longest time his house was the office.
It was, yeah.
So I remember they were going to go on their offsite, and I had just come back from somewhere after my meeting with this company where I could have been employed, and then I was like, but I don't feel like. I don't know. I'm very confused. I was again like that restless mess. And I said, I don't know because my grandfather doesn't really want me to be an actor. But at the same time, I don't want to not give it a chance and let go of the opportunities that potentially can come my way.
Yes.
And so I don't know what to do. And the first conversation that Quasar and I have had, like a heart to heart, was in his kitchen just before he left for the offsite. And he just sat me down and said, look, this is what I have to offer you. Come here, be the festival director, go for auditions, audition as much as you can and as much as you want to, audition for anything that comes your way, because you will regret not giving this a chance. So you're not really lying to him, you're working a full-time job.
Right.
And I was like, it was a salaried job.
Yes, of course,
I was
yeah.
getting paid for it, because that year also was the first year when they wanted to try this
Slightly more structured.
yeah. Try a more structured approach to festival directors.
Yes, because otherwise it was very in-house and
Yeah, and
so-
then people come, people go, right? Like through the 6 months that you're building the festival for the
Yes.
year, you never know who sticks around and who doesn't. So, so he said, let's give this a shot, and you can do whatever you need to, as long as the work here is done. That's it. But lots of tears were shed in front of him because I was
How
like, I
nice.
don't know what to do, and this is just. I'm lost because this was literally after college. So my last year of college, and I have graduated. So yeah, he continues to give me direction in life.
And what's a
On
nice
stage and
Toral story?
A nice Toral story. Toral also actually, she starts with being the stricter one, but then you realize that she's actually the softer one than Kwasar is. I don't know if that's been your observation about her, but it always, with them, it always starts with, oh my god, you have to impress Toral. And like, it's really hard to impress her. But she's actually the softer one between the two. Like, Kwasar has yelled at me also.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's yelled at me also. But,
Properly yelled.
So,
And she's the one who actually is the comfort giver.
nice.
At least in my case, that's how it's been.
For me as well, I think Kwasar was quite the kind of guiding light in that sense. And I think that he actually perhaps is one of the reasons that AK Village didn't shut down in its second year.
Toral and Kwasar, if to sum it up for me, are the heart and the brain. Like,
Right.
in that sense, for me. Like, I know the issues to take to him, and I know the
Issues to take to, yeah. Post Thespo, quickly, what's your theatre journey post that been? Theatre journey. What's that been like?
So, post Thespo, so also that year there was another thing that QDP was trying to do, was to take everybody to watch a play
Right.
every month. Every month, I think,
Right.
or week. I don't remember, but like, I remember I hadn't watched so many plays ever before in a short span of time. And one of those plays was actually Tunni Ki Kahani by
Yes.
Aadyam.
Yes.
And when I watched that play, Toral was with me, and she just turned to me and she said, "This is your dream play, isn't it?" Because Trisha was singing, the girl who played Tunni was
Yeah.
singing, she was dancing, she was acting,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Isn't this where you'd want to be?" And I said, "You know what? Yes, I would actually." And then Trisha wasn't going to be able to do that play after a point,
okay.
and they were trying to recast. So Purva Naresh and Gopal Dutt
Yes.
Tiwari
Yes.
has
That.
Dutt has Gopal ji, as I call him. They reached out and they said that, why don't you come?
So that was your first play.
That was essentially my first play. Yes.
Tunni Ki Kahani.
Tunni
Okay.
Ki Kahani, and they were touring actually with the play.
Nice.
Yeah, it just fell in my lap, and I was very excited because that was literally my dream play, because I got to sing and dance and act and be a young girl.
And then?
My chronology probably would be off, but I did a corporate show with Kwasar Thakur Padamsi. So that was another experience which was daunting, because to get Kwasar to direct
He was
you,
directing you.
he was
Okay,
directing. Yeah. It was just, he's a disciplinarian, and you cannot. Experiences of working with Kwasar and Akarsh are very different, although I'm glad that I went from Kwasar to Akarsh. So that was one play. That was the only play that he has actually directed me in. And then Dekh Behan, actually.
And then you and I did something together. We did a rehearsed reading of something called Disconnect.
We did.
Disconnected.
We did,
Disconnect.
at Prithvi, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
at Writer's Block or something.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Dekh Behan happened.
Dekh Behan was the first play that I actually was the first
That
cast.
it was built with you.
built
Yeah.
with me.
It was-
And generally, to start my theatre connection, actually, I'll rewind a little bit. This was before I auditioned for So Many Socks for Kwasar. Last year of my college essentially is when I was like, okay, college is now going to end, and I want to do something that will keep me close to acting, essentially. If that means theatre, yes, I want to be close to stage. Because on stage is where I had that epiphany of, oh, this is where I want to be. So
Wow.
yeah, so that's where it started for me. And then Shelley was, I think, doing a workshop which I attended, because at that point in time I was like, I want to be
Do
in as
everything
many
that you
places.
possibly can.
I wanted
Yeah.
to do workshops. I knew that Thespo also organized workshops. So what I then also ended up doing was I would coordinate, like I would be the volunteer at the workshop but also be part of it.
Nice.
So Quasar and Toral kind of have enabled me to do that, essentially. So yeah, Thespo did that for me. And then of course cut to
All
we
these
came
things, and
back.
then Dekh Behan, which you started and left, and then now there's a sequel which you're not.
I haven't left.
You haven't
I
done.
want to do more shows.
I wanted to round this section off with one question.
Yes.
Why haven't you done more theatre?
You know, actually, it's a good question because I've never really found an answer to it, because I really, and every time I've done a show of Dekh Behan, which is essentially the closest to theatre I've been in the recent
In
times.
recent times, yes.
I always feel like, I remember feeling this way after the Bangalore shows, and I said, why am I not doing this more often? Because I do still feel liberated.
No,
on
but is it
a
because
lot
you
more.
got really busy?
I got really busy.
Is that something?
Essentially, it is that.
So
Essentially.
the longer commitments are tougher in terms of like building a play.
Yes.
Yeah,
I feel
so-
very guilty about not doing a lot more theatre, but I think it's because the other work that I do just took over
over.
all my time.
Right.
So just that. And the downside of that is now that every time I go back to doing Dekh Behan, I'm always asked to project because I act for the camera.
That's a thing that we talk about a lot. That the actors having to kind of jump from one medium to the other, and how they
Yeah.
have to kind of combat that. Though, I mean, to be fair, I mean, barring the volume in terms of the performance styles, a lot of our work is fairly subtle. And
Yeah, but I also think it's still different on stage, right? Like I can't be feeling here.
Yeah. No,
Because
it's
the
got to
camera
be
will
an
capture that.
outwardly.
It's
Yes,
not going to be
yes.
like, no matter how small the emotion or the depth of the emotion or even like the feeling of it is, it still has to be big enough to reach the last row.
That is true.
So I struggle with that a lot, actually.
Because you're
the camera
jumping
has
from
spoiled
one,
me.
yeah. So you don't like theatre anymore. Okay, cool. So that's
the conclusion
That's
of
the
this.
conclusion of this. Okay, now in terms of the work that you've done in terms of camera,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there've been enough interviews about it, and I'm sure that you've covered that enough, and everybody knows your work, and they can Google it. And the idea of these conversations are to kind of cover stuff that you can't Google, and stuff that's not in regular interviews. So this is something that I've kind of started trying this time around in the episodes. And I want to try this with you. I'm going to name a project you were a part of for the camera. A project that you were part of, and what I want you to tell me is the one learning you had from that experience. I don't want to know what it was, how it was. Must have been great, and like you must have got awards, and it was wonderful. And so I want to start. I want to start with Girl in the City. What you can do is when I start, since you're buying time also to think of the answer, you can say where people can watch it. So yeah, so
Well, Girl in the City has 3 seasons. You can watch it on YouTube.
what was your take home from Girl in the City?
My God, you're asking such deep questions.
It's not deep. It's just like carry home food. That could be a learning.
He's asking
I don't
you
know.
to
Yeah, you can say carry home food. Something as simple as that. So like, but I'm expecting a slightly more intelligent answer.
Patience.
Great. Yeah, that's a great. Yeah.
It taught me a lot of patience, because also it went on for 3 years in that sense. Because with
You
like
did 3
3
seasons.
seasons.
Yes, of course. Yes.
And every season the team changed. The
Okay.
a crew changed.
Okay, including the director.
No.
Okay.
So the core crew remained the same.
Right.
I made friends with Pritika Chawla actually.
Right.
So hello Thespo again. But
Anand Tiwari already. Yeah.
Anand Tiwari already. So yeah, it essentially that.
Patience. Little things.
What little things taught me. I can tell you what it did for me, which everybody knows, I guess.
That we don't want to know. We know what it did for you. What is your learning?
Because the thing is with little things, what also happened is, and again, this is something I've said enough times, that again a 4-season thing, but I literally grew up with it.
You want to give a learning per season? We can allow that.
No,
also.
not per season, but in the sense of like, I don't know how to explain it. Like I grew up with the show.
Yes,
So I kind of like lived through different phases of my life
in that.
through the show, and I I can't point out a specific learning, but I feel like I was a different person at the end of the show, because when I look back at it, I
Because
feel
it took
like,
a certain
oh,
amount of
there's been a
time.
growth, and in different ways the growth has been. Like in terms of fame, there was growth.
What
In
about, did
terms
it
of
help you
like
with your craft?
that, it was there was that there. Um, I have never felt so personal about a character, and I've never felt so like confused in terms of when am I me and when am I Kavya, because it became such a wake me up in the middle of the night and I can play Kavya
Right.
kind of thing. So I grew up with it.
Katti Batti.
Katti Batti was my first ever film, so I was just excited. So I think I just took that away from it. That, and to be fair, I was very spoilt on all my film sets, including, which I'm sure we'll come to. So I was like, it gave me that sense of I want to do more of this, essentially. In a very, I was hardly there. I did like
Sure, but
10
as
days.
an experience, it was enjoyable enough for you to want to
Yes.
do more of that.
Yes, I was
and
like,
so
oh,
it
I'm
gave
enjoying
you,
being on the set. I want to do this. I want to be friends with everyone.
so it gave you that clarity.
Yeah, it did.
How about Muramba, which was your first Marathi film?
Secretly, I wanted to do Marathi theatre first, because I felt like theatre felt more comfortable, because that's
That's
where
something that you tried ever?
No,
I mean, have you actively tried to pursue that?
no.
You have friends in Marathi theatre.
Yes.
One is coming to my show, Nipun Dharmadhikari.
Yes, I was
There's
told.
one.
So Muramba essentially gave me my first film fare.
Sure, I'd like that not to be a learning. I'd like that. I'll go into foster parent mode to say that can't
No,
be the
no,
learning.
no. I'm just kidding. Obviously, it's not that's not the learning. But Muramba again gave me a sense of groundedness in a very. It felt. I mean, it's a very cliche answer to say कि crew felt like family.
Sure,
But that is actually a crew that has kept in crew,
Touch.
meaning like it's literally the 10 people who were the core, like the 5 producers and the 4 cast members, and of course your DOP, all of that.
these are people that have stayed in touch.
They have been together, so it still gives me a sense of groundedness. We still go back to each other, we still kind of revel in those memories, and still we know that this is where we started.
Nice.
To-
So speaking of Muramba, I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to come back to it, but there wasn't an opportunity to do more Marathi cinema. Did that not come your way, or is that a choice you made? Or?
It is a choice that I made, not to fray from Marathi cinema, but after Muramba, I feel like I didn't find a story to tell that was as compelling as
Muramba was for you.
Was for me, yeah.
Okay. What about your learning from Karma? It's a serious question. Huh? I mean, you can say there were none, and that it was just like how to misbehave on set. But I mean, like,
It's a huge learning as an actor, and it is something that I have reiterated several times, but it stayed with me because it's very important, which is also a life lesson, if you think about it, is to listen
right?
better.
Yeah, I know you've said this to me.
Yeah, I've
about
said
being-
it several times.
about being present and
Yes.
yeah.
And it's and I always go back to that, because I know there were several moments while we were shooting where he has been like, ho gaya abhi iska, because I would forget my lines, or I would just keep laughing at whatever he would say, because I mean he was funny, and it kind of, I still go back to that I should listen, I should
And
just
be
be
more, yeah.
present, because it also comes in handy when you're doing theatre actually. So every time I do Dik Behan, it's very important for all of us to be listening to each other, and
Yeah.
that kind of reminds me of that.
What about Chopsticks?
Wow, what is, my God, very specific.
You've done so much work, then you're gonna get like
My
questions.
God.
But it's also
What is
it's
my
also
learning from Chopsticks?
yeah, it's a different phase of your life, hopefully, which was and like you had gone there with a lot more experience, I suppose. but-
I want to say this, I genuinely don't mean it pompously, but I feel like of all the things that I've done, Chopsticks was a thing that I actually didn't do as well.
Okay,
So it kind of,
so the learning was of dealing with something that doesn't do well.
yes.
Right, and how was that? Was that hard?
It was very weird, because I was amidst Muramba and Little Things.
Right, and both of which had been very
Both
successful.
of, yeah. In terms of their reception also, I'm not talking about numbers, because
We don't know
we
those.
don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
But in terms of their reception also, so it came as a, oh.
ये भी होता है कि
So,
कभी सक्सेसफुल नहीं होते.
नहीं,
तो
सब कुछ नहीं चलने वाला जो तुम करोगे. And I mean, it's a story we told with a lot of heart, because we wouldn't be telling the story if we didn't believe in it. But it's okay. Like, it doesn't have to resonate. Everything doesn't
Yeah,
have to
sure.
that you do has not
no, which is an
necessarily
important
doesn't-
learning also.
It's an important
And
change,
lastly, and the one I'm most excited to hear about is your Telugu film, Ori Devuda.
Ori Devuda has been it has been a Pandora's box, in a sense of, I feel like if I can do a Telugu film, I can act in any other language.
Pandora's box opens problems, you know that, right?
It's okay, in a positive way.
Okay. So that's a learning where you can
But it
push
kind
yourself.
of like, yeah, I felt like, oh, okay, if I can do, I remember the most daunting thing for me in the Telugu film was to do a fight, like fighting meaning like we are arguing, and that like went on for like 4 pages. So it's a lot of Telugu lines.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I can do this scene,
Then you've got
I'm
it.
good for, like, I'll take anything on. So I feel like it was like a, okay, now give me a French film, I'll do it. Like it kind of helped me elevate that belief.
French film. Okay. Nice. There's 2 questions that are actually kind of connected. So I'm going to kind of go through all of it and then you can kind of see how you want to frame your answer. So I've known you for a while and there's almost like a temptation to typecast you because of the kind of person that you are. You know, so
It happens.
I know. So I said, so now one question is, what are you doing to break the mold? Because I know you and I know that you want to. So one is that, and 2, which is kind of a corollary, is how do you select your work? Like, what is the deciding factor? What are the criteria you're looking for new work? And is breaking the mold one of them, or is that the be all and the end all? How are you kind of choosing your next step in your work life, and what are you consciously doing, if at all, to break this mold, to be perceived perhaps differently, because there is a perception.
Yes.
And how happy are you with that perception? So
I'm happy with the perception. It's not bothered me really, but as an actor, it kind of puts me in a bracket, and then I'm not able to push through it. So
Right.
it's a bother that way. It's not like, yaar abhi girl next door kyun, because that's the most, like, I have been most comfortable I have been playing any role
those
when
parts,
it is what am I doing to break that is definitely, that's something that I noticed, and yes, I'm sure I've spoken to you about it, but I then consciously went on to choosing projects that would be different than what I have done so far. So I'm just waiting for releases.
so those are yet to come out.
Those
and
are
of
yet to
course,
come
so,
out.
and then you'll know how that pans out.
And I'll know, yeah.
But they felt good.
They felt good, and at least I got the opportunity to
Try something
try
new.
something different. I don't know how it is going to be. Maybe I'll go back to being girl next door, and I have no problem. But as an actor, I do want to push myself to know if I can even. And I really enjoyed doing what I did while at it. In terms of the scripts that I choose, it's very different in different phases of my life. Right now, I'm in a place where I'm like, I want to tell, and the opportunities or the possibilities are endless when I say that I want to do something that I haven't done, because I've not done a lot of things.
Sure.
But in terms of course, the story has to be fun enough for me to want to tell it, and the people telling it also matter to me. And it depends on, like, it will probably be different for different industries. So
Right.
then, I mean, like, there will have to be somebody to elevate me also, to help enable me to get into an industry, so then it can be a producer, director, in terms of the names.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to do different films in different languages. That is definitely something that I do look forward to doing. But what I do want to now do is do something completely whack. Like, I want to be part of a psychological thriller, or I want to play a completely negative role. Like, I want to do something that's very different from what you will not expect
from
me.
you. Right.
So that's
So
essentially,
you're actively looking for stuff like
I'm
that.
actively looking for stuff. Meanwhile, if something comes along, I'll not obviously say no to it. But what I'm picking from are things that I have not done before. And again, like I said, opportunities are endless, because there's I've just only begun.
My last long form question,
Yes.
and then we go into this slow burn. Um, and this is it might sound a little bit like therapizing, but it's not.
That's my conversations with you,
I
Akash.
know I know you're very fond of Ted Lasso. So I had a question, and I mean, you can not answer if you don't want to, but the perception of you, besides the girl next door, is that you genuinely have a very infectious, upbeat persona.
Yes.
You seem like a happy person, and a chirpy person, and is that real, and how constant is it?
No, it's very real.
It is.
It's not. It's inconsistent on some days when I'm just not feeling it. You've just not met me on many of those days. So, but on most days I'm like this, and I like to be this because I feel like, every time I feel low and I'm like wallowing about something, ki arey, life is not going the way I want it to, I get bored of it.
You get bored of being sad.
Yes.
This is a best way of dealing with it. I think you'll put all the shrinks out of their job. It's just like you can just be bored. Nice. So I'm that's the end of the long ones. And
Oh my god, this slow burn I'm not looking forward
I mean,
to.
it's not really like a rapid fire. So, these are very easy questions and we'll keep the answers short. Okay, so rapid fire / slow burn. Best piece of advice you've received about acting?
Remember your lines
From whom was this?
before you go on set or wherever. Argya Lahiri.
He said, remember your lines before your concert.
Yes.
Wow.
Learn your lines, basically.
Why is that something you didn't do?
No, it wasn't that. I was at the QDB office and we were sorting gels out.
Nice.
And and I was shooting for Katti Batti then. Like I was in between the schedule. And that's something I don't remember what led us to that conversation, but that's something he very specifically said and it has stayed with me. He was like, just make sure that you know your lines before you've reached your workplace. Everything else will, like all your emotions, everything, your acting will fall in place because that's a direction. Know your words, know your lines.
Nice. If you weren't an actor, what would you be doing?
I don't know.
You don't have an alternate profession?
No. And I don't want to say singer because that's not something I'm trained
Because
in.
someone will say stop singing.
Huh?
Also, someone will say stop singing. No one's saying stop acting yet. No?
That.
Are there any missed opportunities and regrets? Anything that you wish you had done? Or something that you wish you hadn't said no to?
No.
None whatsoever.
Because I function with a lot of gut feeling. Like I immediately know which side I am on. Even when I'm asking somebody you think for advice, most of the times. Sometimes I am
Thanks
confused.
for telling us that you don't really value your opinion.
No, of course I do.
So
Of
you've
course I do. Oh my
pre-decided like it's
God.
just you're testing
This is
us.
such a foot in mouth narrative.
So-
No, but in the sense that anything that I have to, like any decision I have to make is it comes with a lot of gut feeling. And so most of the times I know where I really am. So no regrets.
So no
It's
regrets.
okay. If I have not done it, it's because at that point in time I felt very strongly to not do it.
3 words that genuinely describe you as a human being. And
Why don't you give me
No,
this
I am not.
answer,
And they can be in any language. They can be in Marathi to please the Marathi fans. 3 words that describe you from your point of view. The words I used to describe you, you've heard enough. So these are the ones you have to describe yourself.
Hey, this is too much thinking I have to do.
You can be flippant about it.
I don't want to be. What if I want to be intelligent about it?
Okay, then let's. I'm all yours.
Oh my god.
It's only 3. I could have said 7. I said 3.
Can I say like a
Sentence?
Yeah.
Because one word you don't do. Na? So,
no? Like I always get asked if there's a book written on you, what will it be called?
oh, I'm not asking that.
And
but
I
I'm-
have 3 words for it, but
Okay,
like
say.
the sentence is made of
Yeah,
3 words.
say.
Shaken, not stirred.
We'll live with that, I guess. Means nothing, but we'll live. Examples of, and I know that you.
Just makes me sound like a very
we're not going to Ted
person.
Lasso. Indian content.
Hey, why?
One second. Indian content
Huh.
that you watched and blew you away, and I'd like an example of perhaps a play and anything on screen.
One of my favorite plays to have watched still is The Run
Yes.
by Nata Company.
Yes.
It's just it's Brilliant.
Dadan by Natak Company, directed by Nipun Dharmadhikari, starring Amay Wagh, among
And Alok
others. And I
Rajwade.
think it is still running. There was talk of them closing it down, but if it's running near you, please watch it. It's
You
an
have to,
excellent,
yeah. Music by
excellent,
Gandhar.
excellent play.
And Alok Rajwade and Amir Wagh on stage are just a riot. And Nipun, of course, is a brilliant director. Show or
Film,
like whatever.
Indian content on the screen that you saw that blew you away.
It is one of my favorite films to watch, and generally a favorite film because it's very poetic, in my opinion, which is Ijazat.
Oh, you old soul.
I think it was way ahead of its time. I don't think it has. I mean, it has aged well.
And this is where I ask you to sing Mera Kuch Saman, right? So,
I'm not singing songs from that film. Those are really hard.
oh, wow, that's a hard choice, but nice, nice. And last question. Of all the work that you have done so far, what role are you the most proud of?
Kavya
And
Kulkarni.
why? The most proud of? Little things. Kavya.
Maybe because I think it only comes with a lot of bias, the answer also, because it's a character that has stayed with me. It has made me who I am in that sense. It has introduced me to a world that I didn't think I would be introduced to. And I've grown with her. So it's something that, like, she's very dear to me. So I'm proud of her.
All right, thank you so much. This was nice.
Thanks,
I'm so
Ash.
glad.
This is so
Now I
nice.
don't need to see you till next year.
Oh,
So, because we've caught up now, right? So,
No.
but yes,
I
thank you
just
very
asked-
much. All right, wonderful, lovely.
Thank you. Hi, you guys. I'm Mithila Palkar, and I had a great time on the Aadyam podcast called Unscripted with Akarsh Khurana. And you can listen to it on Binge Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcasts on. If you like this episode, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Aadyam Official.